If you guys are, any of you are preparing for a tournament or any kind of over the board game, please learn from my own mistakes. Start doing puzzles and playing games on your chessboard, like a lot. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is rounds 3 and 4 of the chess tournament that I played, the Bois Colombes Open. I was in the Open B section, which basically was, the intermediate, beginning, advanced players from the anywhere from like basically 1500 as the lowest up to 19, just underneath 2000 elo. Actually, I think the highest rated opponent was 1999. And then of course there was the section A with much stronger players, section C with some of the lower rated players. So this is round 3, and I'm going to take you guys through this. I was particularly happy with this game because this arguably was my best game. This was the strongest opponent. And let me show you guys. So it was René Jacques was his name. He was in 1853, and really nice guy. He was kind of funny. He was like eating candy the entire game and asked me if it was okay if he ate candy. Kind of smacked his lips and stuff throughout the game, which was interesting. But he was a nice guy. And so let's just get started. We'll jump into it. First, I wanted to show you guys here. Was happy that, so you can see 92.2% accuracy for myself, 92.3 for René. So a pretty clean game. Let's just jump into it. So I was playing D4. I'm playing the white pieces. You know me. We get D5, and I am recording this after, like much later after the game. So some of the thoughts that I had going through this game won't be as fresh, but basically we get a London system. First thing that I noticed was C6 right away, which was kind of interesting. He could have gone with like E6, which would have been perfectly normal, but we get an early C6, so I go E3, and then an early bishop F5. I generally just go bishop D3 right away. That's what I've been playing, because if they take, I take back with the C pawn and have this nice like center pawn taking away some of those squares. It is doubling your pawn structure, but I've been liking the structures I've gotten with that. So then we get E6, knight C3. I opted for knight C3, knight B to D7, castles, bishop E7. So nothing crazy happening so far. I go with H3 now just to make sure that I'm holding onto my bishop. And then A3. They play queen B6. And here I opted, obviously I can't go queen B3. Queen C2 is possible, but I thought, I don't know if I want to put my queen on the C file, because it kind of encourages him to bring the rooks over. So I went queen E2, and then he played C5. And here I spotted, I think I took a while to think. Unfortunately, I started writing down the timestamps on my own moves to see like how much time I'm spending on each move. But at this point I wasn't doing that. So I don't remember exactly how much time I had, but I do remember that he was playing relatively quickly. He definitely had he had an advantage on the clock. So C5, I took some time to think here, because to me it kind of just looked good for me if I took. And then of course if he takes with the bishop, I get kind of a tempo. I get with the D4, get a nice solid pawn structure and get a tempo on the bishop. If he takes with a knight, kind of the same thing. I mean, I guess he could sink it into B3, but I decided to take, which the computer seems to agree with. And then actually, yeah, here I was looking at B4 instead, just because I played A3, might as well play B4. That's what I want anyways. And then I can follow up with D4. And he decides to go back. I claimed the C file. And then I went for knight E5. Honestly, not entirely sure. It seems like it's an okay move, but looking at this now, honestly, guys, looking at this over a 2D, screen is so much different than playing it and looking at it over the board, which I'll get into in another video. But he goes queen A6, just putting some pressure on this so that if I leave, he's going to take on D3, and it's also pinned, so I can't go D4. I thought it was a good move. I decided to get out of the pin, therefore, and then he played B5, and here I kind of thought this was not the best move, because it just really, it's like, wow, that C5 square now, if I manage to, well, you know what, actually I don't want to play D4 here because it gives away those squares for black, but I do still have this strong C5 square that I can try to take advantage of. It just looked kind of a like a weird move. The queen's also blocking the a pawn, so temporarily it's kind of hard for them to play a6. Anywho, queen b3, or sorry, queen b2. I guess just adding some protection here so I can maybe double up my rooks or move the other rook from the a file. He goes with queen b7, and then I swing the knight back. My idea is just to reroute the knight and then more importantly open the c file. I felt like it was good for me that since I had my queen here, I don't know, I wanted the c file. Maybe look at doubling up. Then I jump the knight into d4. He goes for knight a4, and as you'll see, the knights and this little like b5 out, or the a4 outpost, ends up being a thing in this game, like a big thing. Here I decided to take because I saw that takes. Let's see, I'm trying to think here. I decided to take, why? Okay, I can't remember. I'm going to be honest here. I can't remember why I decided to take. There was a reason. There was some exchange. I thought it was good because usually I don't take. Anywho, I decided to take there, slide my rook over to contest the c file. And honestly, here it's still, like, you can tell it's pretty even. I'm holding on. I'm playing a stronger opponent, and I'm holding on, feeling pretty good at this point. They play e5, which I'd calculated this. I was looking at this and I just saw that I don't think it's actually a good move because I have knight f4, sorry, knight f5 here, and I'm threatening all sorts of stuff. So just the fact that if I get a knight here to f5, there's so many forks that I'm threatening. I figured this had to be a good move, and e5 had to be not the best move. He decides to trade the rooks, which makes sense. Just get out of those potential forks. Then he brings the knight back. Here, I played this move, queen c6, and it was kind of funny. He looked at me and kind of smiled, and I think he like kind of pretended to clap his hands, or was just like, you know, oh, that's a cool move. It's totally unnecessary, and actually it's a bad move, but I just thought, hey, how bad can it be if I infiltrate with my queen, almost force him to queen trade, because if not, there's some potential mate threats, back rank stuff. Well, not really, because he can block with the knight, but I don't know. And so he decided to take, and then we trade down to this endgame where we have knight bishop versus two knights, and this was just a lot of dancing around. I activate my king, he activates his king, and here I decided to, after g5, I decided to open things up because I want to open my bishop up, right? Like the bishop's kind of sad back here, blocked behind all these pawns. I bring my king up and saw potential, like some potentially dangerous stuff with the knight getting in and attacking a3. So I wanted to be able to protect that with my bishop, but computer doesn't seem to love that move. And here, at this point, I realized I had seen from my opponent that if they play knight c2, it's basically, I mean, it's basically over. Let me try to see here. It was because bishop here. Let me think. What was the move? Bishop here. What was I? Knight e5 check. Oh, sorry. Knight e1 check. Yeah, knight e1 check. Right, that's what I saw. So if I defend, then he has knight e1 check, and he forks the pawns. And I mean, at this point, if you lose one pawn here, you're pretty much losing. And against an opponent like an 1853, it's probably enough to just seal the deal and finish the game. He didn't go for that though. He played knight d1, which right away I was like extremely relieved, kind of surprised that he played that instead of knight c2. Just seemed like such a natural move to go after that weak a3 pawn. But nevertheless, he played that, and then I started jumping my knight around. I had seen that if he does try to bring his king in, I'm going to give a bunch of checks. I'm going to start hopping my knight around, giving a bunch of checks, and then hopefully get my knight to maybe a better square, maybe be able to go after this h-pawn, because any possibility that I have, any advantage that I might have, is going to be with these two outside pass pawns, probably not over here. But that was my thinking process, because as you can see, I got two checks there. My knight is in a decent position to try to go after this h-pawn. The bishop also lends a little bit of help there in case he pushes. And knight goes back to b4, and at this point, I believe he offered a draw. I think it was him. Was it him? I never offer draws, or I never have so far. So he offered a draw, and honestly, was super happy. As if you guys saw the recap from the previous video, I also played a strong, 1801 or 1806 rated opponent, managed to draw against him, and this guy as well. I mean, he was playing really fast, and I was actually really low on time. I was doing pretty well under the time pressure, but he offered the draw, and I took it, and so yeah, that was game 3. We'll take a look at round 4 now. All right, so this is round 5, and so the last game I was at table 28th table. So, and I managed a draw. So at one point here, I was doing pretty good out of like 109 or 10 players. At one point, I was at the 28th table on round 3. So, and then at this table, I couldn't really know for sure because this guy that I played had to have special accommodations for the table, and so the table was marked 999. I don't actually know where I would have been at this point in the tournament, but anyways, so my opponent was Toiti Bruno, and another strong opponent, 1806 was his rating. Of course, I'm still at 1615, and well, I'm not going to say anything about this game. You guys will just see as we go along. I'm not going to spoil it, but let me just show you. So we had 79.9, 74% accuracy. So I had 74, not the cleanest game ever, but, and I am playing the black pieces. So we get E4, and of course I'm playing E5, or D5 in the Scandinavian. I think every single opponent that I faced with the black pieces played E4, which was actually lovely for me. I was really worried about facing D4 against people because I'm not super content with my, not super happy with my D5 openings. But we get a Scandinavian, and for some reason, I just kind of forgot this line. I mean, I knew that knight f3, I knew it's a line and I had gone over it, but for some reason I sometimes bug out here with whether I take with the queen or the knight. And so I went with knight takes. Both I think are acceptable, I believe. Let's see here. Queen takes, I think, is also possible. Let's see here, even though it kind of just transposes to a like queen a5 Scandinavian. But anywho, I took with the knight, and they went for d4. And like, as you can see, knight c6, already I am making some mistakes and forgetting the opening, which is not good. I went for knight c6, c4, and like, honestly here, I was already thinking to myself, well, there goes this game. But I just kind of hung in there and just played the moves. I was playing pretty quickly. And so I do think I had a little bit of a time advantage in the beginning here. Keep in mind, guys, this is an hour 30 per game. So it's an hour and 30 minutes plus 30 seconds per move. No, additional 40 minutes after the 40th move or whatever, just only 30 seconds per move. That's all you get. So he goes with knight c3, and surprisingly, this position the computer actually thinks is okay despite my opening mistake. And now I kind of thought, okay, bishop f5, the computer does not like it, wants e6. Yeah, e6, but then you got to know how to get this bishop out at some point. I decided, hey, bishop f5, and now we have a game. Obviously I need to be calculating d5 because it looks pretty annoying, like it's kicking my knight out. If I go knight b4, I might get in trouble. I was contemplating all this, but if he goes d4 now, or sorry, d5 now, this is actually a threat. So I would like him to play d5. Anyhow, here I just thought to myself, well, now we have a game, actually. Like my bishop's out. I'm going to play e6 at some point and then just have like a normal game here. He went with bishop f4, and I was worried about a kind of fried liver attack. I think I didn't want to play a6 because I was just really worried about d5 and the fact that I can't really castle all that soon. I want to castle short. So that's why I decided to attack the bishop right away, which I knew was probably not the best move, but he goes back to e3, and then I play e6. For the moment, I don't need to move this knight. Yes, there is the discovered attack, but this knight can't really jump anywhere that dangerous. So I kept it there and played a e6 to just get my dark square bishop open, get ready to castle. He goes knight g5. I drop back to knight f6 and kick the knight out. And yeah, like here, once again, I'm just thinking, okay, this is comfortable. I can work with this. He goes queen b3. I decided to go rook b8. I do this a lot instead of defending. Let's see, the computer wants to just ignore it, actually, and just go, okay, you take, let's see. I'm actually curious. Knight a5. Uh-huh. Queen has to go. Is the queen trapped? The queen would be trapped. Wow, that's a poison pawn. Okay, I had not. See, these are the kind of things that I should be spotting. He can't actually take there. But I decided to go rook b8, and a3 to me seemed understandable, but not the best move because like I'm not looking to go knight b4 now. I just want to get castled, so it just seemed a little bit slow. I got to get some fast development here, and then rook f to d8, rook f to d1, sorry, and then I spotted that bishop on e3, and I kind of thought that the computer would like this move. You know, you're threatening to take and get the bishop pair. It just seems like a decent move, and in the meantime, you're jumping your knight forwards. Yes, you can play h3, but then you take, and so he pushed d5. I decided to take, and then here I spotted that, okay, the knight is protecting h4. If I get queen h4 here, these bishops are looking pretty nasty, and that king is looking pretty weak. So my knight has to move anyways. What if I just play knight e5? Is he going to take? If he does, I think I'm pretty happy. He did, and surprisingly, I'm not sure if I expected him to go into this, but I knew he might be tempted to just keep taking, and he might miss that I have queen h4 here. So I was already looking at this and seeing that this is like lights out, right? I get this move in, and it's pretty much GG for the game. If he pushes, I take, and he's getting mated. And this is what we went for. He fell into this, and I think by the time I played h4, queen h4, you could see he missed this, and took quite a while to think on this next move. And then I had to calculate, okay, here, do I take with the rook, or do I just move the king out of any potential, you know, checks or pins, whatever, because he can of course push and pin. But I decided, look, there's no threats. There's no threats here other than no, there's just no threat. So I'm going to take with a rook. And here I thought for quite a while, because this is obviously important to try to find the right continuation. I was thinking to myself, this might have a forced checkmate here. If not, it definitely is a good attack. I should find the right move. Guys, if you recognize, if you see a similar position like this, take with the queen. I mean, calculate it all, but take with the queen, because this one mistake here was the beginning of the end. I decided to take with the bishop. There's no reason. I should have just calculated this, because after queen takes, king is forced over to one of these squares, therefore going into the pin. I move the bishop, and now it's just, you know, it's looking really good for me. Whereas this bishop, actually, I wanted to take with the bishop because I thought, well, he can't go here. He gets mated. He can't, my queen keeps, you know, cutting the king off that diagonal, but it just didn't work. And what happened here, let's see here. I needed to play bishop. Wait a second. Bishop h3, sorry. Yeah, so I need to play bishop h3. In hindsight, I honestly could have found this move. Of course, if he takes, he's getting mated there. But I didn't play that. I just thought that, hey, like this should be okay if I just go bishop g4. Looks like I'm forcing some pieces off, and the king is still going to be... But it just gives him time to escape. And he went king e2. I took, thought it'd be good to trade off some more pieces. And surprisingly, like black is still completely winning, but... actually, sorry guys, you don't have the eval bar here. Let me switch that. So surprisingly here, black is still winning, but it's like I just totally threw away a much easier position, winning position, because of that one mistake. Then I went queen g3, another inaccuracy, because he can bring the rook over and block, which is what he did. I have nothing. I have, you know, no checks. I go here, he goes there. So I just slowly kind of gave this game away, and yeah, trying to add pressure on the f3 square, but he always finds a way to hold on. Now the rook is pinned, I can't move it. I decided to go back because I saw that there's nothing there with the queen so long as the rook can block, and I wanted my bishop to get to a better square, because now my bishop actually, you see, if I had taken here with the queen earlier, One other thing to point out here is that the bishop is on a very active diagonal, a very active square. When I played bishop h2 check, I mean, this thing sucks now. It's not like it's not doing anything. It might be useful if you moved over and then I went for like a checkmate or something to, put on the g3 square, but it's terrible. And that was another mistake that I just didn't see earlier on. So he goes for a queen trade. I have to refuse a queen trade here because I just figured I had to refuse the queen trades because my advantage is that the king is really weak. And yeah, just he found a way to hold on, and I never found a way to break through these pawns. And queen b2. At this point, the clock was getting pretty low. I'd used a lot of time. This was a bad move. You can just block with a rook. Okay, I grabbed the pawn, but now my queen's totally out of the game. And then in comes the knight. And it's like, it was so frustrating because I just couldn't find a way to get to the king afterwards. And it wasn't for lack of calculating. Honestly, I think I did my best. I calculated and calculated, but I just couldn't see it. At the end here, okay, I guess this was kind of a fancy finish. There was a nice little tactical sequence here, but it still doesn't work. So I took with a rook, forcing the queens off, takes, and then I take, removing one of the rooks to, yeah, okay, so bishop takes d2 was actually better. I figured king h7. Okay, so apparently this is better. I figured that this would be better to pin the knight, because then the knight and the rook were hanging. I saw that the rook had come down, and then eventually I noticed, oh crap, he can take another pawn before I force a trade. And that's when I just collapsed. The game goes on a little bit longer, and then I resigned. So this was kind of the beginning of the end. I'm not going to lie, guys. It was a very frustrating game to just throw away. But at the same time, at my rating, at least in terms of like over the board, this is a pretty common thing. I think that this can happen. This certainly does happen to me while playing online chess. But I'm going to make another video about this and talk about this. But one thing is that visualizing, guys, on a 2D, board on a computer screen is not the same thing as an over-the-board chess. And if you guys any of you are preparing for a tournament or any kind of over-the-board game, please learn from my own mistakes. Start doing puzzles and playing games on your chessboard, like a lot, because it is not the same. I go back and analyze some of these games and I look at moves, either from my opponent that I missed or moves that I played. And I just think to myself, like, what the hell was I doing? I had 30 minutes or whatever, 20, 30 minutes to take on this move. And that's the move that I played. And it just, I think it just ultimately shows that your visualization, and your ability to find certain tactics and, all that kind of stuff is going to be different if it's on an over the board, game. So this was obviously super disappointing. Up until now, I had a win, no losses. I had a win and 2 draws against very strong opponents. So the tournament was going pretty good for me. And yeah, this was a bummer. It was a bummer, but I guess everything's a learning experience. I did also discover that, guys, I gotta, I made videos on, winning and losing and how winning isn't everything and this and that. And in a competitive tournament, I guess I just realized for myself that I think I just have inherently a very competitive nature with certain things. With other things, I don't give a shit. Like if we're playing a board game or whatever, I never understood how people can get so worked up about like a Monopoly game or something. But with chess, I think I just need to accept that competitive part of myself, that I certainly, I don't like losing. I don't like losing. It's not like I'm the only person that feels that way, but so yeah, this was round 4, right? We're almost halfway through the tournament, and the tournament's done, by the way. I'm going to share with the results, so stay tuned. I'm going to post the other videos for round 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Today is actually New Year's. It is the 31st at 6:12 p.m. Getting ready to celebrate. So if you guys are watching this right now, have a happy New Year's, happy 2025 to everyone. And I'll see you guys in the next video.